In this CBT nugget, we're going to take a look at planning for your security using Rbac. Yeah, role-based access control. You know, really the point is two things here. We want to be able to set up security for other administrators, how much or how little we want them to be able to do. We also want to be able to decide what users are allowed to do. Well, we get to do all of that through a rather unique and probably new to you security model. The agenda. Oh, and boy, starting off at the very beginning with what is Rbac and what is this? How does it affect my security? What is all of this and how does it tie together? This is actually a really important, not only just concept, but implementation. And I got to tell you, there's an easy way to do this and there's a hard way. Well, I'm going to show you the easy way, obviously, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the hard way as well. This has been known to be very complicated. However, with Exchange 2013, it's gotten a lot less complicated. Yay! We're also going to take a look at parts of this security. Basically, how do we handle managers or administrators and giving them permissions through management role groups. Yep, strange term for that one. And also, how do we decide on what users are able to do? We can do that with role assignment policies. So we're going to take a look at it all. Look at all of it. Let me say it that way. So tell you what, why don't we get started with what is Rbac? We've got a strange concept to talk about. So the question is, what is role-based access control, or Rbac? Well, let me start off with what it's not. Something that you're very familiar with. You guys know that if you have something like a printer and you want to give, this is my generic picture of a printer. I know. Okay, well, we'll just go with that. It's a printer, and if you want to give permissions to this printer, what you do is you right-click on the properties of the printer. You can go into the security option, the security tab, and you define who and what permissions they have. This is a relatively granular way of doing it, and we refer to this as the access control list or discretionary access control list. This is just DACL, ordinary DACL security, and you would assign it by users and by groups. So you got groups. And you probably would do it by groups because individual user permission assignments is always a bad thing, because troubleshooting it later, what a real nightmare. So that concept is not what Rbac is, but you can use that concept to kind of help us understand what Rbac is. Role-based access control is a security model that was introduced in Exchange 2010. I have to tell you, a lot of us that started working with it in Exchange 2010 really wanted to find another product to work with. No, it was complicated. It's a complicated concept. And it's a complicated implementation. However, in 2013, Exchange 2013 has made it much easier. Did I say easier? I said easier. And I'm going to show you the easy way, then show you a little bit about the hard way with dealing with Rbac. But here's basically what it is. You know that everything in Exchange is managed with commandlets. Yes, they are. Everything's done using a commandlet. So verb dash now. And those commandlets have parameters, dash whatever the parameters are. In a nutshell, here's what we can yeah, okay, good enough, parameters. In a nutshell, here's what we're doing with Rbac. Instead of deciding on these, can they read, write, or print kind of permissions over here, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, this particular group or something has a set of tasks that they are allowed to do. So we're going to take this concept of taking a group and giving them tasks that they can do. If you're a member of the group, a user that's a member of it, then you can do those tasks. Now, those tasks are defined. And I'm going to do a detailed picture for you, but these tasks get defined, and here's what they get defined to. They get defined down to the extreme granular level of what commandlets you're allowed to use and what parameters you can use on those commandlets. And I'm talking, this is a real low level. Think about this, out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I didn't say that enough yet, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of commandlets for Exchange, we can control exactly what ones you can use and the parameters on them. This is an important security concept that throughout Microsoft is now becoming extremely popular. And so it's really good. It's just a little bit challenging when you first start to work with it. Now, all of a user gets their ability on what tasks they can do and then what commandlets they can run. The commandlets are actually run with a group you're going to see quite a bit throughout the rest of this course called the Exchange Trusted Subsystem. Now, you've seen the Exchange Trusted Subsystem as a group before, back when we were doing DAGs and we were trying to create a witness. I'm going to use that as an example a couple of times, but the commandlets get used under those permissions, that Exchange Trusted Subsystem. Now, these commandlets, they're groovy, and being able to control it is groovy, but as you can imagine, it gets complicated. So that's one of the challenging things that we have to deal with. Now, one of the beautiful things about this is, and I'm just going to tell you right now, one of the beautiful things is since all of Exchange is managed with commandlets, and we're controlling down to the commandlet level, this means that any tool that you run for management on Exchange, whether it be a graphical tool that manages Exchange, or if it be, well, the shell, quite honestly, since everything's using those commandlets, this gives you a consistency to your permissions management. You're not going to be having these weird tools do weird things that you can't control or that you haven't already set up security to control. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. Now, there are two real main areas that we want to focus on, and this is how we're going to break this down. And again, it's going to get a little bit tricky, but I'm going to do you a picture first. The two main areas that we want to look at is controlling admin access. Now, you're not going to want to be the administrator for everything all of the time. As a matter of fact, if you're in a larger company, you can't be. You have to have, well, I don't want to say junior admins, but you have to have other Exchange admins. And you're probably not going to want to have them have all of the permissions. So we're going to manage the permissions and through what's called the management role groups. So let me just write this down. Management role group is for admins. So management role groups. And also, and this is our primary focus, I'll be honest with you, that's the primary focus. However, everything that you learn there will help you with the other thing that we want to look at is, well, what are users allowed to do? Yeah, this is one. But what are users allowed to do? And we'll look at that with something here in a little bit towards the end, referred to as my brain just dumped all over me. No, the management role assignment policies. And that's what a user has the ability to do as far as managing their own information, their own mailbox stuff, and things like their distribution groups. It'll be much easier by the time we get there. So, so that's primarily what the idea behind Rbac is. Now, I do want to tell you that, just like with, what you're familiar with Windows security, you're really going to want to do your permission assignments through groups, or through what we're going to refer to as role groups. Dun, da, da, for our administrators. Now, you can do direct assignments, but that's like we said over here, like if you were to take a user and directly assign them permissions, you don't want to manage that way. It's very complicated, it's very granular. So we want to do it through these role groups. Well, now the fun begins. I wonder how complicated we can make this. Well, I know. I've got another picture for you. So, one of the biggest challenges that I have to this is that when I was trying to learn this too, I mean, it's one of those things that we all have to go through this. My biggest challenge was terminology, because the concept really isn't too much different from what you're used to in something like Active Directory, where you're creating, global groups and domain local groups, and then assigning permissions to resources, and then putting users into those groups. It's really not that much different, but there is now an entire difference to the terminology, and the end result is better. But the terminology is what usually slows most of us down. Let's start off with this concept here of what's a management or role groups. And I'm going to break down kind of where the picture here with Rbac is and see if I can tie it into some of the things that we're familiar with. First of all, let's start with this. I want to be able to have a bunch of administrators have a certain set of permissions to be able to do something. Well, the first thing I'm probably going to do, and I'm going to draw this as kind of a circle, is I'm going to create them a group. And what we do is we refer to this as a role group. Role group. Just kind of like you used to use the term, and I say used to, but you still use the term, domain local group, all that kind of stuff. This is a role group, and we give it a name, and I'm just going to do something really simple. I'm just going to call this puppy help desk. This will be a help desk set of permissions. Now, here's the interesting thing, is this is just a universal security group like you would create any other universal security group called a management role group. So the terminology, see, management role group, is a universal security group. In fact, tell you what, I'd like to, throughout this picture, kind of pause and take you to show you things in the system. So let me show you what a role group looks like in Active Directory users and computers. Yeah, I think that would be a great place to start. So I've already opened up Active Directory users and computers, and take a look here. When Exchange got installed, there was this OU over here called the Microsoft Exchange Security Groups, and just take a glance right now. Don't try to get too much into the details of this, but here's a bunch of universal security groups. Things like compliancy management and discovery management and Exchange servers. Here's that Exchange trusted subsystem that we were calling on before when we needed to set up permissions for a witness on a DAG. Here's Help Desk. See the example that I'm using right now. Here's Help Desk. It's just a group, and if you wanted to put some admins in there, in other words, you wanted some admins to be the help desk people, which means they should be able to like at least view some of the recipient information, right, on the mailboxes. You would open this up and go to members, and you'd be able to add in users into this. And when you, or add in users, add in groups, other groups, right? So that's kind of what the same process is, though, in a different way. We can do it through here. And here's the thing I just want to throw out that I want you to keep in mind, that I can go through Active Directory users and computers, and I can add members, both as users or other groups. So I can say add and type in whatever I want right here as my management tool for this. However, we have management on the Exchange side. So let me show you the initial graphical setup on the Exchange side. So there's two ways to do this on the Exchange side, and like I said, I'm going to show you a final implementation that makes it real easy, but I'm going to open up, I already have the ECP open, and I want to show you, see this thing right here, permissions? That's where we do the permissions for both, and I just love how they labeled them in here. Admin roles and user roles. Remember I was telling you that there are two things we want to look at in this video. We want to look at the management roles for administrators and then what users could do. So these are both broken down for you. The admin roles is the side that we're looking at, and here are the role groups. And I want you to notice compliancy management, discovery management, ooh, help desk. In other words, it's the same stuff as what we were seeing in Active Directory users and computers. It's showing us those security groups right here. I also want to point out that this is very helpful, is that when you select something, you may not know what it is, but over here on the right, it'll give you Help Desk. And we'll talk about what roles are, but what members are in there, and probably most importantly, I just rolled right by it, is a description of what it is. Now, like I said, I'm going to show you how to implement this all over once again, but oh, my screen flipped. I just want you to see, if I click on the pencil up here, I can edit Help Desk, and I can scroll down. I'll explain some of these other components in a little bit, and I can add members right here. And guess what? That's like doing it through Active Directory users and computers. Yeah. You know, Active Directory people, they have that tool. This is our tool on the Exchange side, right? So, but it's pretty much graphically done the same way. And what I want to tell you is this is one of the beautiful things about Exchange 2013, because we didn't have it this way in Exchange 2010. You had to do everything through, dun 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 dun. So you had to do everything through here. And it was kind of challenging, because let me just show you. And like I said, I don't want to inundate you with the PowerShell stuff, but I do want to show you some of this. So I want to get a list of role groups. First of all, you can do help and have it search for things like role groups and the terms that I'm mentioning. However, let me just show you. We have something called get-role group. Boom. And there they are. Looky. These are the same role groups that I just saw. And so here's how to get a list of role groups. And of course, you can add people to these role groups. Now, let me just grab a particular role group and just show you right now that you can grab an individual one. And I'm going to grab identity. What do I want to grab? What was I going to grab? I think I was going to grab Help Desk. Oh, that doesn't have anybody in it, though, for yet. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's grab get role group, organization management. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe this to FL star so you can kind of see all of the things that are in here. And I just want to point out a couple of things with this role group right now. First of all, this carries all the information that you'll probably need most of the time when you're looking at things. And like I said, we'll talk about role assignments, what they are, that kind of stuff here in just a minute. But let me go down here to members. And you can see that the current members in this is administrator. Now, if I wanted to add a member to this, yes. We have a commandlet called add role group member, and you'll see me demonstrate it. That'll let you add members. So you can add and remove members. You can do everything, of course, right here through PowerShell. But I just wanted you to see the overall role group thing. So that kind of gets us started with, we do have a bunch of groups that we could use. Now, besides the list of role groups, and remember, they're just universal security groups, we can have what we call role holders. And I just started to mention this, role holders. And these are the users, you know, Bob, whoever. As a matter of fact, I think I'll use Bob later. Bob, that you want to make part of that group. So notice my little arrow there, my blue arrow. I meant to do it in green, but okay, that's fine. My little blue arrow for Bob to be part of that group. So you're going to put users, or you know, other groups, security groups from Active Directory, as members of these role groups. And you can do that, and I'm going to kind of quickly here flip over, boink, to here, and I'm going to just show you get let's see, get role group, role group member. So we had get role group, which gave us our list of groups. Now I want to do get role group member, and I want to specify the thing I want to see, organization management. Oh wow, I must have hit the cap locks. I wasn't paying any attention. There we go. So it tells you right now that administrator's in there. In other words, you know, before I sent get role group, I had grabbed organization management and sent it to FL star, you know, format list star. Now I actually have a commandlet that will let me take a look at role groups, so you can see who's a member of it. And the reason I like the commandlet is if I wanted to add or remove a role group member, that's what it would be. Add role group member, and then I could specify the group that I wanted to add it to, and then the member that I wanted to add. And I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. But I just want you to see that just like we could with the other graphical tools, we can add people in and out of the group. Well, we're not done yet, though. We got to go back to our other picture, because I can get people into a role group that gives them some permissions, but that's just it now. What permissions? How do we do permissions? What is all of this stuff? So now the question is how does these role groups and these members of these role groups get permissions? And remember what we're getting permissions to, and that's one of the challenging things, is we're getting permissions to a commandlet and its parameters. And if you have permissions to it, you can run it and use it. If you don't, you can't. So here's how this is going to work. First of all, this is kind of done as entries in what we refer to as, let me draw another little circle here, and it's kind of lopsided for a reason, so I could write the word management role. And let me give you an example of a couple of management roles. So we're going to create a management role or use one of the existing ones. One might be, well, let's see, what does help desk need to do? They need to be able to view only well, recipient information. So recipients might be one thing that they need to do. Another thing that they may have is some additional user options that they can work with. So let me just write these down here, user options. And these are names that we're making for this. These are the names of the management roles that we're going to create. And I want you to notice these are task-based permissions. So notice it's view only. Recipients information. So I'm kind of making the name kind of fit what I want it to be able to do. Now the management role itself is the name. It's the name. So whatever you want to call it. What makes this though work is something called, and I've got to do it down here, is role entries. And the role entries describe what exactly commandlets and the params that you can use for it. So it kind of feeds that These role entries will get added to a management role. We already have members being added to groups over here. Well, as you can see, there's a gap in the middle. I've got the management roles, and I've got role entries, the actual things that they do, like the commandlets themselves. Now the question is, how do I tie them together? And you tie them together by assigning your management roles to your role groups. And so we refer to that as, oh, you're going to love this. I know it got even more complicated. Right here in the middle. We call that a role assignment. Now I'm going to write role, and I can't really fit assignment in here. Let's see here. Assignment. Okay, not exactly, but at least I, got close. And so what we're going to do is this, is that your management roles will be assigned with an assignment to your groups. Now what I want to do is just kind of take you on a tour of this, well, not the whole process, but kind of a tour of this using the help desk group, again with PowerShell, and show you how you can see all of this with using the Exchange Management Shell. Then we'll do it graphically. I know your head may be swimming a little bit, but trust me, there will be gloriousness at the end here. So let's kind of take a look here. I'm going to do get role group, and I can sit here and look at all this list. What I'd like to do is look at the role group help desk. So let's focus in on him. Let's do get role group identity, and I got to put it in quotes, help desk. And this brings up specific information for help desk. Now let me send this to FL star, because a lot of this information that we're looking for now is underneath here. So I've got my description, but it also comes up and it shows me the roles and something I'm going to show you here in a minute, the assignments. Oops, I scrolled over too far. The role assignments that connect everything together. Now the roles, here are the roles: user options, view only, recipients. Oh, those are the things I was looking for. Those roles, those are the management roles I just described that are going to be the containers for the role entries that control what commandlets they can do. Well, let me just show you. Besides looking at it that way, you can also just do this. You could just select roles and see them listed there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do get management role. And remember, this is going to be the container. Now, what I'm going to do here is get management role. I'm going to show you there's two ways to do this. I'm going to do identity, and I'm going to pick the view only recipient. So I'm going to say view only and recipients. And just to show you, here's the information, view only. Notice it's got role type view only recipients. There's a reason for this, and let me just kind of show you. If I send this to FL star, whoa, it's going to scroll all by. Looky up here. These are the actual role entries, and what it is, I know it looks like a jumbled mess right now, but let me scroll up a little bit further. And yes, we have commandlets to pull this out, but the role entries here, look, here's set AD server settings. Here's the parameters that can be used for that commandlet. So it's going to describe exactly what can be done. Now I'll show you calling up individual role entries in just a second, but I want you to kind of notice something. Things with spaces in them, this is what I just did, things with spaces in them, wow, it kind of drives me nuts. One of the cool things is once you get used to it is use the role types. Yeah, so get management role by role type. Now you don't have to, you could just do view only recipients. See, that makes it easier. You get the same information. It just makes your life, I know it's like, well, that didn't do it. Yeah, pipe it to FL star. So it gets you the same information. It's just easier to type. Now, once you have the view, the individual a particular role that you want to look at, when you want to dive into those role entries, there's actually a commandlet that can help you dive into that. And so let me just kind of clear the screen here. We're going to do this view only recipients. And so I'm going to use get manage role entry. And manage role entry, I'm going to put in the identity of what I want. And this is going to be weird syntax. You specify the management role that you want, and I want view only recipients. And you also have to put in here what particular role entry you want to see. So I'm going to do a slash and a star which says all entries. So there's two components to this when you type it in. So look what I got here. I'm going to scroll all the way back to the top so you can see the command and what it's showing me. So identity, view only recipients was that management role, and I want to see all entries. And so what it's doing is it's showing me all entries. Remember I was showing you with the FL Start, you could see the set AD server settings, and then it's going to go through all the parameters that can be used, and it tells you what role it's being used for. So here are the commandlets that are specifically used for that management role. So if you are in a role group that gets this management role, here are the entries that you get from it. I know. It's kind of makes your brain kind of confused. That's why you should watch this over and over and over again. I know that's not funny at this point, but that's kind of how it works. And I could pick up, get contact. If I wanted to see a particular one, I could do this. I could say, show me, instead of star, show me get contact. And it'll show you then the parameters. You can actually, well, here, I'll just do it. You can select expand property parameters. Oops, helps if I spell it correctly. Really does. So here are the parameters that can be used on that commandlet. Oh, come on, this is, if nothing else, you got the concept, it's pretty cool. It's not necessarily, though, that you're going to want to manage it this way. Well, let me show you a way that you can manage it, and you're really going to like it. At this point, let's go back to easy mode for a second. That's all the complicated concepts, and we have PowerShell commandlets for all of it. So yes, you can do all of your assignments through PowerShell, and everything I showed you, you can create new stuff, and you could set your own stuff. But let's do a little couple of general rules right now. Rule number one, if at all possible, use what they've already given you. Don't create new stuff. In other words, add people into what already exists. And really, this graphical utility makes that easy. Let's take a look here. Help desk. I want somebody to be running help desk. So I want to go in and add somebody. I'm going to hit edit. Now look at what you get. You get the name of it, the description. Scope is something I haven't mentioned yet. Scope is where do you want this to be able to be in effect? And that's very important. Maybe I want them to have permissions only over a certain OU of people. See, I like that. I like that a lot. Now down here is the roles. I just showed you the roles, right? The management roles, and those management roles had the role entries. Well, if you want to add another role to a group, you certainly can, but here's what the rule is we like to follow. Not only would we like you to use the role groups that already exist, try not to make too many changes or any changes at all to the existing role groups. It makes troubleshooting so much more complicated. It would be better to copy and make a new role group and then change those and do those assignments. And that's kind of one of the other things. Go back to see rule number one. If at all possible, use what already exists. But you can modify roles in a role group. And now you can go in and add members. And I'm going to say add member. And what? Where's Bob? Yeah, let's add Bob. Let's add Bob. I have to maximize this. Say OK. Bob is now about to be, well, I got to maximize this and say save. Save. Dun, 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 dun. Bob is now a member of help desk. See how easy that was? I know, but you need to know what all these parts are and how all this works. Now look, there's a copy command up here. So if you want to create your own custom role group, really it's not a good idea if you can use something else that already exists, and they've given you so many things. But if you need to, and you need to get granular, what I like to do is copy an existing one that's pretty close, and then modify, the management roles, or even the copy management roles and modify the role entries from there, that kind of thing, just to make my life a little bit easier on who can have access. So if you're going to create your own custom role group, it's probably better off to try to copy it and take a look at it. Now, one last thing on this is from the user side. We've been working with administrators, but let's flip over here and take a look at user roles. User roles are done as a policy assignment. As a matter of fact, I'll show you that in just a second. There is a default role assignment policy that already exists, and this is what users can do, well, basically to themselves. As a matter of fact, it says over here what they can do to self-administrative tasks. Now, what you get to decide is what things you want users to be able to do or not do. And I want to show you these defaults, but first of all, I want to show you, I'm going to go to recipients real quick, and I'll just pick a user. And I'm going to go in here and show you in mailbox features. It is a role assignment, so a user can get one of these role assignment policies. So think about this. You can organize groups or clumps of users into different policies, which means different levels of management that you want them to be able to do. Some users you may want to have more control than others, so that's really what the idea is. Let me show you the default, and you'll get an idea of what kind of things you can do. So let me open up the default role assignment. I'm going to maximize this screen. First of all, what do you want them to be able to change their contact information? Some people do. Some people don't want users to be able to do that. Now, you can create a role for maybe managers that can do this, or and then regular users, or maybe help desk or something like that. You don't want them to be able to do it. You create a policy for them. So you go down here. Do you want them to be able to change things like the display name? And do you want them to be able to change their distribution groups? And so where they could create and modify and view different distribution groups. With the great thing about distribution groups is that you might want to have users that can control their membership to user groups and make their own distribution groups, simply because things like, maybe the company does have a softball team and you want people to be able to join and not join, or that kind of stuff. You can also give them other things to deal with Outlook web app, like their custom apps, the marketplace, all of that kind of stuff, their voicemail, their text messaging, so that they can view and modify stuff in there. So the question is, do you want them to be able to do it? Now, this is the default that everybody gets. So one of the things to keep in mind is you need to look at the default and make sure it meets your compliancy, or, well, not necessarily compliancy, but what you want or what your company wants users to be able to do. Some people do not like some of these settings, and so you want to check this out. Also, you can always edit that, like I was just doing, or you can even create, of course you can create, what I mean even create, you can create your own policies. So you can make a new policy. I'm just going to call this one the Jason policy. How creative of me. But my point being is that then you can go through and decide what you want them to have, and then you can assign this policy either using the Exchange Management Shell, or you can use the graphical to go through and assign this policy to the users, just where I had shown you under recipients. So two different kinds of security modeling. Two different kinds of ways to look at the security. What we want administrative types of people to be able to do, and what we want users to be able to do for their own self-administration tasks. This whole concept of Rbac is a lot easier, I think, through this graphical, isn't it? It certainly is. But certainly you can also practice with and play with the management shell stuff. Well, let's take a look at all of the stuff that we did. Whoa. Security, security, security. It's really not that bad, especially in Exchange 2013. You remember that the main role groups for Exchange, you could always create your own, but the main role groups are groups. Are universal security groups, and you can see them through ADUC, Active Directory Users and Computers. You can see them through the Exchange Administrative Center, and of course you can see them through the Exchange Management Shell. The idea is to add members to this, like users, to those role groups, and they will get the ability to do what those role groups have been assigned. They get that through an assignment. Remember, that was one of my bubbles, assign, and that's as far as I'll write it, assignment. They get it through, and that assignment contains the management roles themselves and the individual entries inside those roles. And boys and girls, this is Rbac, role-based access control. I know it's confusing at first, but it is very important to Exchange security. And keep in mind, use the things that already exist if at all possible. That'll reduce some of the confusion and certainly help reduce some of the troubleshooting confusion that gets involved with working with Rbac. And also, we looked at this specifically from the administrative side. so that you could control granular administrative permissions for all types of purposes and reasons. And quite honestly, you're going to see me use these permissions from time to time in the rest of this course. You're going to see me say, oh, you got to make sure you're a member of this particular role group, or that you've got this particular role assignment, or excuse me, a management role that's available, assigned to the role group. So it's one of these things that we end up working with all of the time. And we also took a look at the policies, the role assignment policies for users. And this lets users have some control over their own environment a little bit. And you get to decide how much and how little, and you get to decide, you get to decide at the groups of users that are allowed to do the different things. So you can have multiple policies, one policy per user. Wow, this has definitely been an interesting video, right? All the Rbac stuff. We still have some more to talk about kind of with this Rbac concept and security coming up next. But until then, I tell you what, I hope this video has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.